Welcome everyone to another live code and Linux distribution development live stream here. And oops, we broke our own Linux distribution again. But thankfully we have users and developers and testers, but of course it should not happen. And a recurrent case of not only what we don't test, but why does this not exist? Yeah. What's not tested in general. Even if you have 20 years experience and you do something, famous case of titles of this video, right? Senior engineer manager like touches the code, of course he knows better, doesn't test it, and oops, breaks everything. Usually we laugh about those at Amazon and Apple and peak bugs and stuff, but yeah, it happened again. So let's take a look here. What happened is I broke, apparently, according to our new developers, I broke this code in cleanup, right? Totally unnecessary. I so often pro tip here, what's not broken, don't touch it, and criticize all the random ever-changing Linux distribution stuff of ever-changing open source stuff. And then at the end everything's broken, and then I should have known better. And I only touched it, to my defense, I only touched, well, except excessive white space cleanup because over 20 years there's quite some stuff, and that is the thing, right? Is it really worth to touch code style when, I mean, you can't really gain anything, right? Well, except, yeah, you can gain a little bit of readability and maintainability maybe, yeah. But you convolute the history and you have a high chance of this code refactoring and cleanup. You usually don't fix bugs. Probably 90% of the time you only introduce bugs, and that happened to us. Which, yeah, we should move on to a microkernel. No tag is right. So what happened here, this is also really strange. So what I cleaned up here was actually only, basically I came over that, and I guess this must be that. Which is that? So how many files are that? And yeah, so much too. And this is kind of, I only found this strange. I've not seen this in like 15 years. It's like, yeah, what nonsense is that? I even read, to my defense, I even read the man page here somewhere, and here's the mentioned word. So basically what you probably don't know, this is some inline here document, not really sure why they call it this here document, sounds a little bit strange to me, but whatever it's called, I find this naming convention extremely strange. But so you can have this redirect thing here with any delimiter, like this word. And so what I didn't even knew, this word is with no trailing blank. There you have it. Oh wait, containing only word, I think they mean here, right? Input read from current source until a line containing only word with no trailing space. Good pro tip there. And so that is with quoting. So the crazy thing is this help manual info man page text is not even the most clear. I understand. I mean, this is a little bit, once a week we open here some man or info page and we read it and we find the wording a little bit strange or hard to parse, even after 20 years. If any paid, wait a second, let's, so arithmetic, so no parameter variable expansion command substitution is performed on Word, so that is there. At least I hope so, according to this page. If any part of Word is quoted, the delimiter is the result of quote. And so that is where I have my problems, right? Always this language lawyer kind of text that even with 20 years experience, especially maybe if English is not your native language, if any part of Word is quoted, so that was quoted, right? The delimiter, that is the result of quote removal on Word, and the lines in the here document are not expanded. Okay, so actually the quotes have a special meaning. And I thought it's like, I mean, so apparently this was still necessary, right? So yeah, more. You want to clean up some stuff and you only break it. That is, this was rather unnecessary. Cheers. Yeah, that was. Where is my? Oh darn! I copied that. So actually we can. So basically we probably want to reverse merge that. So, but yeah, also if you. Yeah, extremely unnecessary. I only touched it for style of like, why they're doing that. Didn't instantly ring a bell there, but yeah, pro tip, if some stuff is strange, maybe double, triple, and test it. I should have known better. Shame on me, really. Oh, why is there so much uncommitted random stuff? I guess we've worked too much on our tiny little Linux distribution. Yeah, also this bloody merge info, this is so stupid. Yeah, that is another example of time not really well spent of changing stuff. So what else do we have fixed? Disabling SMP, disable pies. So this was one rather unnecessary. I really hate this merge info though. This is so entirely stupid. That is. I mean, I get what this merge info is for, but this stuff is totally unrelated. I would actually call this a subversion bug, if I should be honest. I don't really want to have this merge info nonsense in there. But the more you know, right? So that what there is, you see, I wonder if we need the other ones, but maybe we better leave that in peace as well, not to have any other more regressions. But yeah, there you have it. I hope you learned something. I mean, not only not touch code, unnecessary. I wonder though if we as we touch this already, maybe at least we should have a tiny little bit of cleanup here, because I don't quite see if if we need to quote this delimiter for, because it's not quoted there, so the delimiter is a result of quote removal on Word, and the lines in the here document are not expanded. If Word is unquoted, all lines of the here document are subject to parameter expansion, command substitution, and arithmetic expansion. Just did you learn something? The character sequence new line is ignored, and backslash must be used to quote the characters. The redirection operator is, if the redirection operator is, how do you even pronounce that in freaking English when you talk to each other? Actually, so in 20 years, I rather had to read this stuff. That is a funny thing, doing this live on YouTube. It's a podcast. Less than, double less than, how do you even say that in redirect dash, then all leading tab characters are stripped from the input and the line containing delimiter. This allows here documents within shell scripts to be intended in a natural fashion. I always knew the difference of white space. Or do they only say tab? That is interesting for all you Python aficionados. I'm personally not a fan of space and indentation. So the question then for me would be, as I think I sometimes, was he not, oh no, it wasn't. Did you not see that somewhere? That EOT was quoted somewhere. Anyway, quickly. So there we have that. We could spend time to review the other cases, but maybe that is not the best time spent any time on this random stuff here. But yeah, I learned again something. Even I, after 20 years, sometimes learn some small details that I kind of sort of should have learned. But they also see there is always something. Do we need what is going on there? Cat. Why is there cat pipe? That is also strange. What does it do and how does it do it? Cat UT pipe. And then it needs to continue. That is interesting. Which file was it even? Here. T2 debug. Probably there follows other commands. Just curious now. There it is. So that is an interesting syntax that this works crazy. You would think it, yeah, but I mean, yeah, they have it. Crazy constructs you can do. Yeah, so there are quotes inside there. Anyway, so yeah, crazy things we break. So much to cleaning up our code base for mostly wasting our time. It is set. So yeah, we probably established that that was bad. So yeah, I mean, good that, I mean, I thought it's an amazing shape and then I broke it. But it really should be in an amazing shape. And now I can stop breaking it. Yeah, there's some more in at least architecture. So then let's test that. We otherwise are also, the builds are done. That we could check. All right, I think I did this. I had data running. So nothing. Well, there's another half bus major up. Some of this half bus stuff is moving in major updates faster than. Thankfully, we have our data for that. And the SIMD JSON previous video also update. Wonder what's the, maybe this was AVX 512. What was it? Was it SIMD JSON or JSON SIMD? Wonder what amazing stuff they have done. Also, we looked into that. Maybe I even continued to review that a little bit more. It is crazy how small the sources are, right, of SIMD JSON. If you're into this kind of stuff. So yeah. There we have that. Then let's build the Linux kernel again and see if that fixes that syntax error, hopefully, probably. So testing yesterday, also we ramp up testing, and then we are kind of course, you don't need to worry that it might sound we are kind of sort of done. Of course, we will keep maintaining the best Linux distribution out there and only improve of that, but then you can finally move on doing more amazing stuff like a whole graphics subsystem for research and so on, and microkernel, and also vintage, like vintage research and vintage retro fun with like a proper, more sophisticated readable code layer for Voodoo Verge, and then also P3 R6 or other stuff. But so one thing we will of course improve is emerging dependencies to make T2 more popular at home and people are able to build stuff. Just more, there are also tiny little bit updates. So Vulkan headers, I need to check someday the data updates that. I wonder if we again missed some updates. And was it? Oh, there was also wine, but wine usually data does. Also, that doesn't do somehow. Then there is also for you playing along at home, what is new? Wine. Here, yeah, testing. The last the last big thing. There's always one more thing before microkernel, but testing right yesterday. And also maybe I should actually move the tests into T2 trunk. Currently I have it outside of that. Not yet really sure how much I want the tests in there, although certainly it would be beneficial. Although we could make a separated repository for tests. If they are in the T2 trunk or somewhere else, it certainly helps for other people testing and adding tests and so on. Wine probably should know. Why is wine, was it not done by data? Usually wine is done by data, but there you have it. I can already check the log here. So yeah, testing. I've yesterday added another test, not on live stream, for running xvfb and basically testing that the target cross-compiled x11, libx11 and surrounding stuff works. So I can actually show you that in a second. Super tiny test. Took a while of like initial enablement. I guess that looks better. So that test we have here. So yeah, probably, I mean, for open source projects, this is a lot like top secret stuff. I intentionally made this test 110 because I thought we start test like having this group by numbers. And I thought eventually we will have a more basic xorg server or something test, because xvfb and xevent thing is not the most basic test. This is why I intentionally left a little numeric space for that. I envision like eventually we have like maybe 100 like xorg server, but that is a little tricky, previous video. So yeah, but the command for that, so to see how we draft this, and this is also why as I mentioned in the other video, I'm not using some sophisticated unit testing framework stuff, because this is just so specific shell scripting thing that some big unit testing thing would probably mostly make it more complicated and complex than that. It's not ideal yet. We in the future we need to generate a unique display ID there for all the tests. This was not my main concern. This looks again simple, but it took like some 30 minutes of trial and error. Also XEV outputs some stuff, so we need to hide that, and then fiddling around with imports. So we import this from this exported 667. So we run natively an X server. Also another test could test the xvfb from the target system. But for this test, it doesn't matter. I wanted to basically test libx11 and stuff, that this has a chance to work. But again, in the future, we need to test both. I mean, we could already do those X server tests if it would not be the bloody XCM XKB comp. So yeah, another day. But so testing this change root, this root XEV, this is just the whatever, the next best thing, just to have some graphic pattern. And so then importing this, basically I said this before, I wanted to have a really simple test that X stuff has a chance to work, and so the output should be that. And as I mentioned, as you see, a really simple pattern. I think ImageMagick probably automatically tests the color space and downgrades that automatically because it is 16-bit there, but somehow it's outputting, so this must be automagic, which is fine for me, but whatever. Also, one thing is strange. This initially I copy and pasted that, and then the test failed. It's a little bit strange that ImageMagick outputs here space. I don't think it's in the standard, and our exact image does not do that. We have exact image in GPL competitive, usually much faster, but not as full-featured as ImageMagick. Probably I need to implement X11 window capture stuff. But yeah, so much to that. I had to actually modify the test data. This, in my opinion, this is silly to output there this extra trailing spaces. I mean, yeah, it's not the most efficient form of storage there, but I mean, maybe it has a reason. I mean, I'm pretty sure I don't do that for anyway. I could check now, but anyway, if this is for portability with some stupid program, so that is really set, but yeah, it is what it is. It's even that, you see, it's not ideal if it's not 100% compatible, if you have readable. I mean, we probably could diff it with ignore white spaces, but yeah, well, at least as long as you use the same ImageMagick version with this strange implementation, marginality behavior thing, that's what it is. Anyway, so like this, I want more tests. So as I mentioned in the other video, testing, more testing. We could save the whole PNG, but PNG is dependent on predictor heuristics and setlib compression. If you update your setlib library, you might get entirely different data. So this uncompressed and human readable stuff for me preferable. And also, as I mentioned, it makes no sense to compare all 640 by 480 pixels. Yes, there could be corruption, other random garbage and stuff, but that doesn't matter for the test. If that ever is a problem, we could create a not random garbage data test case for that, but keep it stupid simple and readable and human diffable, and to understand what's going wrong and so on. Yeah, so test case, also wine. Not sure if it builds on those. In this server, might not necessarily, this VM might not have everything there. It might have, but yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it's probably fine. So, it's not like wine is mission critical. Oh, what? Oh, it's out of date. Don't. Wow, in the meantime, data. So, data is still running. Didn't expect that. So, yeah, there you have it. Data has done it already. This is why. Yeah, data even tested it as it's. So, yeah, compiled on data's reference. Yeah. There you have that. So, what else do we have to be? So the other thing is, so the other next thing is, so how do we deal, why do we have a VM directory here? Okay, fine. So the next thing is to integrate the tests. I have already partially done that. Let's maybe build all, let's comment that out here for, let's only do x86. And we probably only want to release it when everything builds. Some user to block firmware excessive spam, hide user on. I really wonder why is it called hide and not unwanted content and spam. Strange. Yeah, our small channel, right? Subject to this nonsense spam. So we need some mechanisms. The problem is currently everything scrolls by too fast. What we probably want, now that we have some tests, that we only release stuff and move on when it's tested. So build target. So basically, we build all ISOs, and we theoretically need the ISO for some future tests. Yeah, the tests, I had this temporarily commented out. And so, okay, we have here theoretically to do. And make checker tests, record cycles and stuff. So what we probably want to do is, if z is defined, or it probably is possible that for some architectures we have only QEMU system. For example, even x86, AMD Intel x32 for this compressed pointers. And so we might have one or the other, and the tests should be implemented so that they then output not applicable and test what is testable. So maybe and so this also needs even more stuff. So probably what we need to do is some architectures like PowerPC, we would have different ISOs. So we could choose for some whether we want to test Power NV. And so, but this is also a challenge. There are still some testing challenges. I mean, ideally we could test both. I mean, the simple thing is to add here QEMU PowerPC -M Mac99 whatever. But that would be the simple thing, but not ideal. Then only testing one. Another thing is we could implement tests so that they have multi-targets or different selectors, so that we test both, but that is even a little bit more additional scripting work. Actually, I look for the testing plan. Where did I have the testing? I think I had the testing in the other to do. So here. What did I even? So now I talked so long that I forgot what I wanted to test. Some arch variants like Power NV versus Mac99 and stuff. I mean, initially one test is enough. One test is better than nothing, but just in the long term, it might even be that we later need to refactor that. So first keeping it stupid simple, and then later adding more test targets or selectors, so that I'm not yet sure how to do it. For example, we could, so what is the problem? The problem is we could have a test in this test like 00 bin ls and 100 xorg server and stuff. And so those tests are like one test, and they test one thing and that's it. But as you see here for this ISO, so either we need a flexible test, like let's say 200, doesn't matter, 200 Linux kernel boot or initRD. And that is not only one, right? If theoretically we could test multiple variants there, and that is a little bit tricky. So although maybe, so as I mentioned, like Mac99, Power NV, or different ARM targets, whatever QEMU has to offer, Magnum versus Raspberry Pi or whatnot. Why do I build Firefox? Did I even, oh shit, wait a second, no, I cancelled it. I cancelled it for nothing much, but it's also not what I wanted to build. Does it mean? It probably means that Firefox previously failed. I actually wanted one, let's use a recross target. Maybe it failed due to out of memory stuff, building too much stuff concurrently. Okay, that target is fully built. And so theoretically, we could even add the Firefox target, right? Bringing like change routing there, bringing Firefox up in QEMU. I wonder if it also forks off, or even GTK and Qt and stuff. Oh, and there is another thing. Okay, so this is what I wanted to see. So this test pass, amazing stuff. At least some progress. I wanted to delete that here because this version number irritated me. That was just from earlier testing to test whether we have something there. And so the next issue, what did I wanted to say? All right, the other thing is there are so many variants of testing, right? So much thought even by you also in real companies and real projects and so on. You have test engineers, QA and test engineers. And also like even making a test plan, right? First and foremost of all those stuff, sure, I thought a little bit about that, but then there is still so many variants. I mean, it of course always depends how complete you want to test the stuff, but where do you start? I mean, yeah, where do you start? At least you start somewhere and then you see what, I mean, depending on how well your planning was, and then how much test coverage you want to have. Although 100% perfect test coverage certainly preferable, but there is also a limit of how much you can test. And let's maybe start with Firefox. So this Firefox anyway doesn't work. Do we have, let's see if let's maybe take a look at two things. The first thing would be, did we build RISC-V Firefox? Already unlock to Firefox, is that even built? So that at least another month previous video was working on the RISC-V unmatched thing. So RISC-V 64, change root here and opt bin. Also, I think that forks Mozilla. I think this bin thing forks off that Firefox, so maybe. Alright, we also need to. What have I? I'm not system. Okay, so that needs at least. So yeah, that is still a thing. That is a little bit annoying. We need some solution for that. Maybe the best thing would be not, because we need to run at times ld config. So maybe the best thing would be what we would need for concurrent testing anyway. Bind mount that, bind and overlay mount that, so that stuff that modifies stuff, because we, in an ideal world, like for perfect testing, we obviously, right now we do a little bit of a shortcut of testing stuff directly into this route. But ideally we should of course kinder lightweight sandboxes stuff and prevent. So this is crazy that is proc bus PCI because yeah. I mean, it starts something. Let's I've done that here. Let's start an XVFB, that is our native one. And then let's try that again. That would be, but the problem even here, you can't like easily snap screenshot that, especially the fonts constantly change. This just wastes too much variation. And even the fonts, not only the system fonts, but even each version of FreeType changes the anti-aliasing, or like not each, but many, and often. Oops, this was a typo. So there is a locale warning, which is also not ideal. Failed to open shared memory. Okay, at once. How much stuff will we need? Oops. Oh wow, does it come up? It is crazy. It looks like it kind of sort of might actually come up. Let's make a screenshot. But yeah, that's actually interesting. That is good enough. That QEMU is good enough. Let's let me shortly copy that to server to take a look, because I'm obviously not. But yeah, we can't easily. Yeah, we would need further testing. I mean, the crazy thing is that even with all the theme changes, yeah, leave in the comments below how you want to automatically test it. Although, because obviously if you make a screenshot, it will change with each variation of each icon and theme and styling and stuff. I mean, sure, you could eventually update that to the latest and greatest theming and stuff. If you leave, if you let out the fonts, so slightly wonder the size and the black there, but I mean, there are two other things. I mean, sure, you can always test more and so on. We could see if it not brings a bloody message there of automatically sends data from Firefox to, if it doesn't show that, if we tell Firefox to display a simple hello world, but probably it's more deterministic to screenshot and simple hello world. Maybe even a graphic. Maybe we can avoid the font problem. I mean, also testing fonts, that fonts work is also a nice thing, but we could make a simple HTML CSS block thing with some red, green, blue rectangle, fixed positions and stuff, and that might be more, hopefully 100% deterministic, but you never know. But yeah, testing this stuff is complex, but this is also, on the other hand, it's complex and time consuming, but also amazing, right? That you can, with that, build all the stuff and have it automatically tested without having to touch real hardware and bother yourself with 30 to 60 minutes to reinstall and test it and stuff. Another thing is we could have synthetic JavaScript to test some simple JavaScript computations and check that they work. But yeah, the possibilities are endless. And also the other thing I wanted to mention earlier, probably, which I also slightly forget over probably, is that we could even have tests in the packages. So this is who will ISO, or like who will build an ISO testing thing. Theoretically, we could also have our, certainly a lot of packages have their own like GNU SED and bash and stuff, or glibc, but the problem is we don't want to run an hour long all the GCC test suite, and even they constantly have false positives or other non-broken stuff. So the idea would be to have, if we want, I'm not yet sure if we want to do that, but like if we totally professionalize this for space, rocket and carrier grade, if not autonomous driving stuff, like more deterministic, reliable and so on than Android Auto also, it might be worse or necessary in the long term. And then the idea would be to test a handful of simple things that already show that the stuff mostly works, and instead of running 100 or 1,000 test suite of GCC stuff. Anyway, so yeah, Peppocket, maybe we put this on the to-do before I test here my per package test suite that would run directly during the test, during the package build, and so that you don't build an ISO for 2.5 hours and only then find out that it doesn't work. Not yet sure if it's really worth it. I mean, in theory, the 1,000 plus upstream ISO should have the stuff mostly working, but also history has shown that that is not always the case. So maybe we close that. So lots of stuff I wanted to test we have done and tested. The only other thing would be to test, to add another test case for whole ISO, because right now we have 3 tests for simple things. And so that would be QEMU system, for example, in this case. Actually, not necessarily ISO. Actually, there are two things. Actually, who ISO is tricky. I mean, who ISO is annoying with all the bootloader stuff. So we could integrate this with X, but actually I'm not even sure. Does this? This is okay. Maybe we don't do risk 5. And there you see, there the complication starts. How to test it? Maybe because I'm not even sure if QEMU risk 5 stuff includes EFI payload. Maybe not. Maybe we start actually with a simpler test. A simple test that we can more likely run for most architectures would be to run this here with kernel. Also not kconfig, but even there are variations, right? Some boot VM Linux compressed and so on. So 2 dashes or okay, that didn't go well. But so the crazy thing is, that is, or do we have too little memory? ROM regions not available directly. The request by default something if I overlap F Pro address segment 1. What the heck? Ah, wait a second. Does it want to run this image? But yeah, that is also super annoying to. Maybe it does. This is super annoying to test because we would need to hardcode all those variations. But yeah, I never said testing is easy, right? What would be the, do we need, maybe we need, oops. Maybe we need something like that. Oh, so coffee is empty. Whoa. Yeah, so that will still take a lot of work to. It always sounds so easy, right? Just why are you not testing this with that? It's like, yeah, some hours later, starting to. But with PowerPC, for PowerPC boots, should probably boot that. No, that boots something. Maybe that is TTY set whatever. But even that, so this is, yeah, I guess in this testing plan, I guess it also, by the way, why do we not have a terminal here? That is also, nah. I guess it's best to somehow create separate tests for all the architecture variants, because even the output, right? We have now some test driver that runs this test and compares the expected output. And this expected output is different for all of those, right? Here the next thing is also this version will change for everything. Although we can kind of sort of handle that with expect if we run something like expect in between or something similar, so that we only look on other, also yeah, in the trunk version of D2 I patch this bloody hello world string away because I don't like it. Not sure what was the terminal there. Actually, you know what, let's test that here. Do we have a kernel built for that already? We have. So yeah, it's probably the easiest and most scalable solution to have some architecture encoding in those test sets, and like whether it's dot architecture, like trailing leading, something of that sort, not to over complicate other stuff. So kernel Z, so that kernel is VM Linux. especially for the test output, so that we can easily directly handle all this different output. What? Oh, I also run the wrong one. What? No, this command line editing messed up. Thank you very much. Yeah, for that one we for sure, for some the kernel picks it up automatically from open firmware path stuff, but here we for sure, and they are continuing, right? This is just too much to dynamic. Well, you could dynamically hard code that in there. Why does it take so long? It doesn't look right. QEMU kernel. Looks like this should work. Why does it not? Ah, TY. That is why. Ah, that is why. Yeah, so that's kinda what we want here. Basically here looking on this output, there's some other random stuff. Probably, so we can't directly path it. I mean, yeah, we could run this through grep maybe to, I mean, even that changes sometimes, so. But yeah, there are still some testing challenges ahead. Anyway, that's it basically for that today. I guess we should build all the rest here. There might still be something missing apparently. And yeah, that's it for this video. If you have your own Linux distribution or open source or software project, there's always something to do, especially if you freaking built it yourself, TM. And yeah, I hope you learned something, as did I after 20 years of shell scripting. Darn it. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And I hope to see you soon for all the next videos and live streams to come.